Okay, John. The
Yeah.
first question is, what is your best life advice? And you can just look at me the whole time, not the camera. Just pretend like this
Yeah.
isn't even here. Your best life advice.
Uh, I now what was it again?
What is your best life advice?
Oh, just keep active. Uh, uh, well, that's the main thing. Keep active. I mean, you gotta stay up with the times, and uh, over the years, we were very fortunate, and we came to Myrtle Beach. I forget the date. Jackie probably has it. 1952, I think it was. And we were just opening up a plant in Myrtle Beach in the old World War II buildings. It was an electronics plant, and it was called Electrical Reactants, later bought out by AVX. We hired people from the area. They were wonderful people, honest people, did their jobs, and then we built a complete big plant. We were talking about hurricanes. That was Hurricane Hazel, was fairly close to that time. And that was when the hurricane came right through Myrtle Beach. Let me see anything. But anyway, I had two Boy Scout troops that I operated on. And we belonged to St. Andrew's Parish. And there was a little brown church. The picture of it is right there. When we first came to Myrtle Beach.
Could you just do me a favor? Just don't touch that because it's
Yeah.
clear on the audio.
Okay. And so let me see, where am I at there? But anyway, I was on the building committee that built the St. Andrew's Catholic Church, the bigger church, and the school. Now, Father Madden was the pastor at that time, and he said, first we build a school, because the most important thing was the kids, and then we build a big church, which is what we did. I took the Boy Scouts to see the World's Fair, all the kind of stuff. And luckily, at that time, I got to know some of the senators, and they would get me billings for my Boy Scouts in Washington or down in Florida or wherever we went to the space stations, and I'm not sure where that is in Florida, but was right in about the center of Florida. And Myrtle Beach was the buildings other than you had the Ocean Forest Hotel and the golf course on Pine Lakes. In fact, that's where a lot of the original golf stuff and everything happened. When we built our first house, and that was on 32nd Avenue, and my wife didn't want to go any farther north, we'd be in the woods. So then later on, after that, we built this house, and what was the date?
64.
64. And we've been in this house ever since. And we will be in it until we die. And people in Myrtle Beach were good Southern people. And although I was a Yankee, I had to learn how to be a good Southerner. And everything worked good. The schools were good. Well, just whatever, everything was pretty good. And if you went out at, and this is, you probably don't want to hear this, but let's say if you had too much to drink, all right, maybe one of the local police would say, "I'll take you home." And it was that kind of a deal where they watched out for you. And they watched out for families, young families growing up, with the kids growing up and everything like that. And everybody was good. There was no bad stuff at all as far as I knew. And we did a lot of fishing.
Can you just move your hand off of that
Oh,
gun?
yeah. So I can't think of anything just flashed right off, but we were lucky. After I retired, we did a lot of traveling. The kids were old enough to take care of themselves, so Jane and I traveled the world for like maybe the first time we'd go with an escorted trip, and then the next time would be on our own. And we traveled all over the world, time after time after time. We used to, after I retired, we rented a condo in Lantana, Florida. And a wonderful group of people just like us. You know, everybody did their thing, and we had a lot of parties and all that kind of stuff. And can't tell you about what.
Can I ask you another question here?
Yeah.
Can you share your most memorable story, or maybe two stories from your time in World War II?
Probably Hurricane Hazel. Williams, we were talking about hurricanes now. Hurricane Hazel hit Myrtle Beach. That was after we had built our new building in Myrtle Beach with AVX. And we had had so many perfect situations that, like, I took the boys as Boy Scouts up to the World's Fair and, things like that. And we used to camp out in Clear Pond. I think it's up around 22 right here. And it was, I don't know, we just had everything. See, at that time, people they didn't have cell phones. Each family got to know the next door neighbor family, and it was just like one big family. And that's about it. It was just like the way we were raised in our years of growing up from as up through high school and all that kind of stuff. Myrtle Beach used to be that way. That I watched out for the kids to belong to somebody else, and they watched out for those kids as they grew up. And
what about when you were in Egypt during World War II? Can you tell me about that?
Okay. In Egypt, we were sent out of Warner Robins, Georgia, as a special group. There was 5 guys and a lieutenant. We were to install and get working instrument landing equipment, which at that time I think was secret. We were trained to do that job, and Roosevelt, the president, had enough brains to try to prepare for this thing, and it worked out. Now, it's hard to believe now the way things were at that time when you try to go very far on aircraft. They didn't fly that far. For instance, when we took off from New York, we went to let me see. We overnight in where am I talking about?
I don't know, Philippines or I don't know.
No. Just off the coast of Myrtle Beach, or well, anyway, we had to make a stop, refuel, and overnight at this station, and then the next day continue on into Africa, and then hopped over to Cairo. When we had it installed and working, the pilots didn't know for sure if they liked it or not. So what we had to do is fly around with the pilot, so they know if you flew around with it, it must be okay. And then, as I told you, when the war was over, then we went home and so on and so forth, back to Warner Robins, Georgia. And there was, I think it was 11 million men in the Air Force base, or not in the Air Force, in the Army. They couldn't let them all go at the same time, so they shipped us around to different plants until it was time for your turn to get out after the war was over. And then when I started working, after I got out of the service, I went to every place from Scranton to Old Forge, and finally found a job in an electronics plant. And then later on, I came down to Myrtle Beach. I think it was in 1942.
52.
Yeah. And so then well, anyway, I used to run the production department for AVX. That was all the assembly and all that kind of stuff. We shipped to all of the big manufacturers of electronics, RCA, Motorola, you know, all those guys. And well, I guess that's about it.
Okay. Why do you think it's important to preserve military history like the World War II Memorial in Myrtle Beach?
Well, it's very important to let the local people know. But to me, the Army isn't anywhere near what it was in World War II. Of course, I just don't believe in the way the military is being handled now. When we were there, we had a commander. What he said went. If we had to carry something, we carried it. But when they start relaxing the requirements for the service, I think, my personal view, is that our military isn't anywhere near up to what it was in World War II. And they had to learn from scratch, but if our command told us to do something, we did. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it, or, oh, it's too heavy, or it's blah, blah, blah. And so...
How old were you when you were in World War II?
let's see, 1942, about 1945, I think.
So 19 years old?
Yeah, because, see, we got out of high school at 1942. And then we went, say, about a year's training. So, yeah.
And how old were you when the war ended?
I don't know exactly.
Do you remember, Jack?
Probably 21.
21?
Yeah. We weren't married then. See, at that time, the soldiers didn't want to get married before they went to the service, because then if they got shot, they'd leave a widow. So if you thought about your wife, you waited until after the war was over, that you could raise your family and so on and so forth. But we will never get back to the way it used to be. I understand that. But I think if the country is going to be successful, they got to get back to the basics. You know, this politics and all that baloney. Whether you're one side or the other side doesn't make too much difference if you follow the rules and regulations that were in effect about World War II time. I mean, that was when everybody pulled together. After that, if you remember the time that, I believe it was Russia, put some missiles or something like that in Cuba, and I think it was Kennedy, I'm not sure, sent the aircraft from Myrtle Beach, this is the old base, down to Key West, and told them if they didn't get those missiles out of there, they was going to fly the planes over Cuba. And Russia, or not Russia, it was, I'm not sure who it was. But anyway, they took the equipment out. And we were tough. We could do things like that, which today, I don't know, they're wishy-washy about things. And we've got to get back to strong leadership.